The beeping of machines echoed in the private hospital room, steady but weak. Dr. Harlow adjusted his glasses, his voice heavy as he faced a man standing by the window. "Mr. Langford," he said quietly, "your son has only 3 days left. We've done everything we can." Nicholas Langford didn't respond. The billionaire's fortune could buy cities, yet he couldn't buy more time for his only son. His jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the frail figure lying on the bed. Ethan, just 10 years old, his skin pale as paper. Tubes ran from his small arms, machines whispering a countdown Nicholas couldn't stop. 3 days. That was all. Outside, the city roared. Horns, engines, the hum of a world too busy to care about one dying boy. But in that room, time had stopped. Nicholas had built an empire of steel and glass. But now every breath his son took sounded like a plea. The doctors had tried every treatment. Ethan's heart condition was beyond repair. A transplant wasn't possible. No match had been found. Nicholas turned away from the window, his reflection a ghost beside his son's bed. He whispered, "There has to be something. Anything." Dr. Harlow shook his head. "I'm sorry, sir. Miracles don't happen in medicine." But Nicholas wasn't ready to accept that. Not yet. That night, under the flickering streetlights of downtown, a boy around Ethan's age sat on the steps of a closed store, hugging a ragged backpack. His name was Leo. He had no home, no parents, just a sharp mind and a stubborn heart that refused to quit. He'd been living on the streets for months, surviving on scraps, odd jobs, and a little luck. But tonight, he was cold, hungry, and desperate. When a black car stopped near the corner, Leo looked up. He didn't know that inside sat the man whose life was about to collide with his own. Nicholas was lost in thought, not even noticing the boy until he heard the sound, coughing, a thin, hoarse sound that made him turn his head. The boy looked half frozen, yet his eyes burned with defiance. Without thinking, Nicholas stepped out. "You shouldn't be out here," he said, reaching into his coat for a few bills. Leo shook his head. "Don't need your money." Nicholas frowned. "Then what do you need?" Leo hesitated. "Just a chance, to prove I'm not useless." Something in his tone stopped Nicholas cold. It was the same determination he'd once seen in Ethan's eyes before the illness took hold. He sighed. "Come on. You can help me for the night. Clean the car or something." Leo's suspicion faded just enough for him to nod. By morning, Leo was inside the Langford mansion, a world of gold and glass that made him feel like he'd stepped into a dream. He worked quietly, polishing the marble floors, his eyes drifting off into the photo on the wall. Nicholas with a laughing boy in his arms. "That's Ethan," the maid said softly. "He's sick." Leo looked up. "Can't the doctors fix him?" She shook her head sadly. "They've tried. He's running out of time." Leo didn't say anything. But that night, as he helped carry supplies to the private hospital wing inside the mansion, he saw Ethan himself, pale, sleeping, surrounded by blinking monitors. The sight did something strange to Leo's chest. He saw himself there, helpless, forgotten, and for the first time in a long while he whispered, "I wish I could help." Ethan's fingers twitched. His eyes fluttered open, weak but clear. "You're not a doctor," he murmured. Leo smiled faintly. "No, just someone who fixes things." Ethan's lips curved in the smallest smile. "Then fix me." The words hit harder than Leo expected. That night, Leo couldn't sleep. He found himself sneaking into the study, reading whatever he could about heart conditions, donor matches, and the hospital network. His mind raced. Somewhere out there had to be a match. There had to be. He'd lived on the streets long enough to know systems could be broken, but maybe they could also be bent. By dawn, he had a plan. He hacked, not into money, but into the National Donor Database. His fingers moved fast, eyes darting across the screen as he searched for compatible tissue types. He wasn't a doctor, but he was smart, self-taught, and desperate. When he finally found a record flagged as potential match, he froze. It was a little girl from a rural hospital. Same age, blood type, perfect match. But her hospital had no funds to perform the surgery. Bureaucracy and poverty had sealed her fate. Leo ran to Nicholas, breathless. "I found a match." Nicholas turned, stunned. What are you talking about? I checked the donor list. There's a girl in Milltown General. She's compatible with Ethan. They just can't afford the operation. Nicholas's eyes widened. How did you? Doesn't matter. Leo cut him off. If you act fast, you can save both. Fund her surgery. Get her stabilized. Once she's safe, the doctors can take what's needed to fix Ethan. Nicholas stared at him in disbelief. A ragged street boy offering him hope where experts had failed. Are you sure? He whispered. Leo nodded. You said you'd do anything for him. Then do this. Nicholas didn't hesitate. Within an hour, his jet was ready, and doctors were dispatched. The billionaire didn't know if this wild chance would work, but he couldn't ignore it. He looked back at Leo. If this works, you'll have saved my son. Leo shrugged. Then I guess miracles do happen. The helicopter blades thundered above the hospital roof as Nicholas Langford stepped out into the cold dawn air, his heart pounding for the first time in days with something close to hope. Doctors, nurses, and guards moved fast, clearing a path as the team rushed inside. Leo followed close behind, clutching his worn backpack like it held his life. Because it did. In Milltown General, the girl lay unconscious, her name barely scribbled on a paper tag. Hannah Cole, age 10. Nicholas's team confirmed what Leo had found. She was a perfect match, but the doctors hesitated. She's critical, one said. Even with funding, she might not survive the operation. Nicholas looked at Leo. The boy's eyes didn't waver. Then do it, Nicholas ordered. Save them both. The following hours blurred into chaos. Sirens, rushing footsteps, medical jargon Nicholas didn't understand. He sat outside the ICU with his hands buried in his hair, his wealth, power, and pride stripped down to one fragile thread of hope. Leo sat next to him in silence. His thin hands fidgeted with the edge of his sleeve, dirt still under his nails from sleeping on the street. You really think this will work? Nicholas asked quietly. Leo didn't look up. You once said miracles don't happen in medicine. Maybe they happen in people. Nicholas turned to him. Who are you, really? Leo gave a small, tired smile. No one. Just someone who's been ignored long enough to know how to listen when life whispers something crazy. The first surgery began with Hannah. The doctors stabilized her heart, repaired what they could, and drew the necessary tissue for Ethan's operation. Hours passed like years. Nicholas didn't move. When the lights finally went off in the OR, Dr. Harlow stepped out, removing his mask. It worked, he said quietly. She's alive and Ethan's stable. Nicholas couldn't speak. His knees gave out, and for the first time in decades, he wept openly. Leo stood a few feet away, watching, his chest heavy but full of something new. Peace. Days passed. Ethan began to breathe on his own. His color returned, and when he opened his eyes, his father was right there. Dad, he whispered weakly. Nicholas gripped his hand, tears falling freely. I'm here, son. You're safe. Ethan smiled faintly. The boy, Lo, did he make it? Nicholas froze. He's fine, he said, though in truth, Leo hadn't been around for a full day. He'd slipped out the night before, leaving behind only his torn backpack and a note. The note was short. You gave me food, a roof, and a chance to help. That's more than anyone ever did. I don't need anything else. Just promise me you'll take care of the people no one sees. Leo. Nicholas had read it 100 times, each word cutting deeper. He'd sent his men to find the boy, scouring alleys and shelters, but Leo had vanished like smoke. Still, every morning, Nicholas visited both children, Ethan and Hannah. The girl recovered slowly, unaware that a billionaire had saved her life because of a street kid's courage. 3 weeks later, on a rainy afternoon, a nurse came rushing into Nicholas's office. Sir, someone's asking for you. Says his name's Leo. Nicholas shot to his feet, heart racing. He found the boy standing in the doorway, drenched, thinner than before but smiling. You left? Nicholas said, voice rough. Why? Leo shrugged. Didn't think I belonged in a house like that. Nicholas walked forward and gripped his shoulders. You belong wherever courage lives. You saved my son. You did what no one else could. Leo's eyes dropped. I just didn't want him to die. Nicholas knelt down, looking the boy in the eyes. You didn't just save him. You reminded me what it means to be human. That evening, Leo sat by Ethan's bed. The two boys talked for hours about cartoons, street food, and stars. For the first time, Ethan laughed without coughing. Dad says we're going home soon, he said softly. Leo smiled. Good. Maybe I'll come visit, if your fancy guards let me. Ethan grinned. They will. I'll make sure. Nicholas watched from the doorway, feeling something shift deep inside. He'd built towers of glass, but none of them reached as high as this moment. Two boys from different worlds, bound by something stronger than blood. When Ethan was finally discharged, Nicholas made one more decision. A quiet one, but the most important of his life. He filed adoption papers for Leo. The street boy tried to argue, of course. You don't have to do that. I can take care of myself. Nicholas smiled. I know you can, but maybe it's time someone took care of you for a change. Leo's throat tightened. For a second, the boy who'd faced life with steel in his eyes couldn't find any words at all. Then he whispered, Okay, but I still get to fix things. Nicholas laughed through his tears. Deal. Months later, the Langford mansion was no longer silent. Ethan's laughter filled the halls. Hannah visited often, her recovery a living miracle. And in the workshop behind the mansion, Leo tinkered with old engines and circuits, always trying to make things better, just as he'd done from the start. When reporters later asked Nicholas Langford how his son survived the impossible, he simply said, A boy who had nothing gave us everything. He believed when everyone else gave up. Money didn't save my son. Hope did. And somewhere in the city lights that night, Leo looked up at the stars, the same ones he used to sleep under, and smiled. Because miracles, he finally understood, weren't magic. They were just people brave enough to try when the world had already decided the ending.